Hey, welcome back to Pac-12 Sports Talk. In part 2 of this week, first week of the NCAA football season, we're going to start off with our predictions. Of course, we're going to go with the biggest game right now in the Pac-12 that I can see. Oregon playing LSU in Cowboy Stadium. Joel, awesome game. I'm excited for it.
No, very excited for it. Definitely both coaches have probably talked to the athletic directors and told them not to pull this shenanigans at the first game. Of course, you never want to start off with that. 2 weeks ago, if you were to ask me who would have won this game, I would definitely say LSU right now, especially being that it's basically a home game for LSU. But with all the distractions and the suspensions that happened to Jefferson and to Russell Shepard, I'm actually going to pick Oregon to win this game. I like Oregon's offense, even though this is a very stout LSU defense. It's a very young defense, and I just think through the course of a game that Oregon's playmaking and tempo is going to wear out this young LSU defense. And I think defensively for Oregon, by not having Richard Jefferson, who's that dual threat quarterback, but instead having Jarrett Lee, who's kind of more of a pocket passer, I think that plays into Oregon's strength, which is the defensive backfield.
Secondary.
Yeah. So I'm going to pick Oregon to win this. I'm going to pick them to win 31-21.
Well, you know, Jaron Thomas says this is the biggest game, bigger than the Natty last year. So Oregon needs to win this game more than LSU needs to win this game. If Oregon loses and then they run the table, I don't think Oregon's going to get back to the national title game, but LSU being in the SEC, and that's the nature of the SEC, they can lose and still get back to the national title game. So I think it's really important, crucial if Oregon wins this game. So for that reason, I think Oregon's going to be very motivated to win this game, and I see them going in there and getting the job done. I think Chip Kelly pulls it out 28-21.
Okay. So now the UCLA Bruins and hot seat Neuheisel are heading to Houston. How do you see that game shaping up?
Well, you know, Houston has a great record of tremendous quarterbacks down there over the years. They've had David Klinger, Kevin Kolb, and now they've got Case Keenum. Case Keenum, Kolb set the record, passing record for Houston some years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, with 12,964. That's a mark that will stand forever at most universities, but Case Keenum took me 2 years and 2 games to break that. That's an amazing stat. Amazing. But last year, they played against UCLA also, and Case Keenum got hurt before the first half was over. But he was trailing like 24-7, battling, and UCLA won the game easily. So, rematch, I think Keenum's going to want to get some revenge this year, but I think it's an improved UCLA team, and you got a coach that wants to keep his job. So I think UCLA is going to pick it out. I'm going to pull it out. I'm going to go with Houston, losing that to UCLA 37-28.
Yeah, this is easy for me. UCLA on the road, not a good combination. That doesn't bode well for them, and I don't trust UCLA's offense, which can be stagnant a lot of the times. I'm going to go with the high-powered Houston offense. I'm going to go 28-24 Cougars on this, and I'm sorry, Pac-10 fans.
All right, so Minnesota going to USC.
Pretty simple. Don't need to dissect that one. USC's won the last 4. In fact, there are only 4 contests with Minnesota. Let's make it 5. USC rolls 45-10 on this one.
Yeah, Minnesota went 3-9 last year. Doesn't have a history of good matchups with USC. We got a quarterback that hasn't played much quarterback. Doesn't bode well for Minnesota. I'm going to pick USC in a rout 38-14.
Okay. Could you say the same for Fresno State going to Cal?
Yeah, you know, the Bears are kind of funny. You know, last year they played great at home. Every game they were stomping, but they went on the road to get beat. Didn't matter who they played on the road; they got beat most of the time. But at home, they're great. And just ask Oregon. Oregon got what, 15 points, 317 yards. And Fresno State, they play well against top 25 teams, but Cal's not a top 25 team, so that's a good thing for Fresno State. I see Cal pulling this game out. I'm going to go 27-14.
I like Fresno State's offense. I think they got great running back, good quarterback play, but I like the Cal Bears defense better. And I think Zach Maynard and the offense does just enough to get by this one. I'm going to go with Bears 27-20 on this one.
Okay. And now with the addition of Colorado to the conference, they're heading over to the great state of Hawaii.
Right. And we welcome the Colorado fans. Definitely.
Go Buffaloes!
To Pac-12 Sports Talk. But and I do like Colorado's offense. I think with Hansen and with Rodney Stewart, their running back, I think that's a good combo. But I just don't think it's going to be enough offense. And I think Colorado's defense, which has been let's face it, has been very porous in the past, is going to face a high-octane Hawaii offense, which their quarterback last year put up well over 5,000 yards in the air. That's a bad combo. I see that the high-octane Rainbows win this one 30-24.
Last year Hawaii was extremely tough at home. They lost to a pretty good USC team, 49-36 in a high-scoring battle. Then they inflicted the only defeat on the season for Nevada, who went 13-1. So they played very well at home, and as Joel said, they passed very well, and Colorado doesn't stop the pass well, so I'm going to have to go with Hawaii, 35-27.
Okay. Now, how do you see the Idaho State versus Washington State game shaping up for you?
Well, I think Coach Paul Wolf's coach is going to make a lot of inroads this year. I think they're going to get better, as we discussed earlier. But on the other hand, Idaho State, honestly, they've never played well against D1 competition, so I don't think it's going to be much of a contest. I'm going Washington State 48, Idaho State 17.
Too much Jeffrey Toole, which I think he's a great quarterback. I say Washington State 31-10.
Okay. Now, Sacramento State's going to play Oregon State. That's a team that Jack picked to struggle this year. Are they going to struggle playing Sacramento State?
I think early on, this game might be tougher than people think. Again, Oregon State has a lot of people out. In fact, Coach Riley had to reinstate 3 players that were suspended because he claimed that I don't have enough depth, but enough depth for Sacramento State. So I think even the coach is a little bit concerned for this. Sac State actually is a pretty good FCS school.
Scored a lot of points.
Yeah, they're a good school, but ultimately I think that, yes, Oregon State gets this one done, 31-14.
Yeah, as Joel said, on the surface it sounds like a breather, but if I were the Beavers, I wouldn't be looking forward too much to Wisconsin the following week. We could get embarrassed. I'm going to go with Oregon State 39-20.
Okay, now North Arizona. Go play Arizona. What do you see in that, Jack?
Well, in that game, I see 2 words, actually 4. Nick Foles and Jerome Kreiner.
Yeah,
you got Jerome Kreiner. They play for the Wildcats. They don't play for Northern Arizona, and that could be the difference in the game. There's too much of those 2 guys. Those are outstanding, talented people. I've got Arizona 44, Northern Arizona 17.
I'm a big Foles fan as well. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks, not only in the Pac-10, but in the nation.
Yes.
I think it's too much for lonely Northern Arizona, 42-10.
Okay.
Yeah.
We see the same thing for Eastern Washington going to play Washington?
I think this game is, I don't know what your prediction is. I think this game is a lot tougher than what people think. Eastern Washington won the FCS National Championship last year. Again, that doesn't equate to Pac-10 standards or whatnot, but there is some key components for Washington that they lost through graduation and whatnot. I see this as a closer game than people may expect, but I'm still going with the Huskies 24-14.
As I said, it's the beginning of the Keith Price era, and if you saw him against Oregon last year, you know he's a pretty darn good quarterback. He looked very good against us. So I think Coach Sarkisian he has every right to be excited about the event of the Keith Price era, and I think they're going to do well. I think it's going to be 39-17 Washington.
Okay. So another game, Stanford is hosting San Jose State. Can we look for a Pac-12 win?
Well, I think that's the matchup of the good, the bad, and the ugly. Stanford's the good, San Jose State's the bad, and they are ugly compared to based on last year's 1-12 record. Very ugly. Yeah. And the game I think will be very ugly as well. I got 62-14 Stanford.
You never know during these rivalry games. This is the 65th time that they played each other. In fact, Stanford has outscored them the last 3 years, 102-27. I don't see that changing, even though I predict Stanford's not going to be as good as they were last year. But I'm still going to go Stanford 52-10.
Sound like the Oregon State-Sacramento State rivalry?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
All right, let's move on and talk about some national games. There's 3 that I really want to talk about. I'm kind of excited. You guys, can we talk about some national predictions?
If you say so, you're the moderator.
Okay, well, I want to look at Boise State playing Georgia. That's a great game.
Well, honestly, anyone who knows how to pick this game, they're a better man than I am. You know, this is a case of a team that nobody ever thinks they can beat the big team, and they always do. A lot of examples for that. But last time Boise State went down to Georgia, they got embarrassed 48-13, but Georgia that year was a very good 10-3 team, lost 3 games by a total of 8 points. Boise State, not as good as they are today, they lost 4 or 5 games and only beat Portland State at home, 21-14. So they weren't the same team. They're a lot better. They got a great quarterback, Kellen Moore. Doesn't get rattled under pressure. I think they're going to go down there and pull it off. I'm going to go. I know a lot of people are picking Georgia to win the SEC West. Maybe they will, but first they got to beat Boise State. And I don't think they do. Boise State 32-30 in a nail biter.
I think Boise State's going to show the SEC right now that they can be physical too, and they think that they're just some cutesy team here in the West. But Boise State obviously I think is going to stay with them physical wise. But I also Boise State returns 9 starters on offense. That's pretty potent. I'm going to take Boise State in this 31-21.
All right,
Wow.
let's take a look at 2 Texas teams, TCU and Baylor.
Well, TCU last year, coming off of, they were 13-0 last year, obviously winning the Rose Bowl against Wisconsin. They were 4th in scoring offense, 1st in scoring defense, but it's not the same TCU team as last year. They lost a plethora of offense and defensive players, including their starting quarterback, Dalton. And you look on the flip side with Baylor, that Baylor returns 15 starters, and you also have got Robert Griffin, who I think is probably one of the most, if not the most electric player in college football. I'm going to actually go with Baylor winning this game, call it an upset. I'm going to go Baylor 28-14 on this.
Okay.
Yeah, as Joel said,
I'm taking the best player on the field
to win the game.
to win the game.
Well, as Joel said, TCU begins the post Andy Dalton period in their school history with a quarterback who's only thrown 9 passes in his collegiate career, so that doesn't bode well for TCU. But I think they're a well-coached team. They play strong defense. Baylor, as Joel said, they got the great threat in Robert Griffin, but I don't know if that's going to be enough to do it. I'm going to go with TCU to maintain their supremacy in that series, 31-28, but by a whisker.
Okay, I got one more national game I want to talk about. BYU and Ole Miss.
Well, that's a tough game to call. It's been, I think, about 10 years since Brigham Young has played an SEC opponent, and that was when they beat Mississippi State some years ago, 41-38. And that was a 4-8 Mississippi State team. So they don't fare that well against SEC teams. And this is not a great Ole Miss team, but they do have 9 starters back on offense, while Brigham Young has 10 out of their 11 back on. So you would think it'd be a battle of the offenses. However, Mississippi doesn't really have a quarterback that's played any college ball yet, so that doesn't bode well. However, I think the overall number of athletes that Mississippi have will be enough to overcome Brigham Young. I'm going to go with a home team on that. Ole Miss 28, BYU 24.
This game I keep hearing how tough it's going to be for BYU to play in a hostile environment such as on Oxford and an SEC stadium. But people got to remember, these guys are about 40 years old, right? I mean, there's a lot of maturity with, and all in fun, but there's a lot of maturity with these grown adult kids. But I think what it's going to come down to is which defense is going to be able to come up. Like you said, there's 9 starters for Ole Miss, 10 starters for BYU. And there's very few starters for both teams on defense. But I think in the end, I think BYU is going to come up with enough defensive plays, and I think they'll be able to capitalize with Jake Heaps, the starting quarterback for BYU last year, and they'll capitalize with a couple extra points. And I'm going to go with BYU 34-28 on this.
All right, perfect.
There you have it. Just go to your bookie. Just set that in stone right there.
I'm sure you guys are taking notes. We're going to review these next week. Thanks for tuning in this week. First week of the NCAA football season. This is Pac-12 Sports Talk.
Where else can you find us? Facebook.
We're here to make you money.
Facebook. Yeah, here to make you money.